There we go. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. I got a great guest for you today. Her name is Katee. You want to say hi to everybody, Katee?
Hello, everyone.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. You guys are in for a treat. Katie's going to have a great message for you. And like I do with every other episode, a little random quirky fact about Katee. She is an Arnold Schwarzenegger impressionist. So, she might share with us later about heading to the chopper or something fun along that line, right? So one thing I like to do with every episode is the way I like to start it off is what's one thing you're grateful for today and why?
Um, I think it would definitely be my husband. Um, uh, and the reason for it is, I'm grateful for a lot of things in life, but I don't think I'd be clean today if it wasn't for him. He was the one that, showed me that it was possible. He had done it before. He had 7 years clean before. And I was like, wow, that's a thing. So and then once we got clean, he was the one that kept me in the rooms. He was the one that kept me at treatment every time I try and give up. He would be that push to keep me like on the straight and narrow. So I don't think I would have 7 years without him. I
Awesome.
really don't. Yeah.
Awesome. That's exciting. Well, shout out to that guy.
Yeah,
I won't drop his name right now, but
it's pretty
it's
handsome, that
yeah.
guy.
Shout out to your husband for keeping you in the rooms today.
Right.
So what I want to do here is, can you share with I'll get you to pull that microphone a little bit closer
Oh yeah, yeah.
to you, and then you want to share with the listeners kind of your upbringing, how family life was.
Yeah, so okay, so I actually come from like a quite a long line of addicts. It's kind of in the family. It's a family disease, I would say. Um, my mom and dad weren't addicts. Actually, they rarely drank, which is really weird, right? You wouldn't think that I would have come. You would think I would come from an addict or some kind of like, you know, some kind of trauma in that way, but it's actually wasn't the case. Like I did see addiction lots. I did see alcoholism a lot in family members. Um, And I did hear lots of stories like that from like my parents who also grew up in a very abusive home with their dad who is an alcoholic drug user. Um I would say most of my trauma began like I was sexually abused as a child. I was about 10 years old. And I didn't tell anyone. I just kept it in, and it was around the same time that I found out my dad wasn't my biological father. I was devastated. I at that point I didn't feel like my parents were trustworthy enough for me to tell them what had happened to me. I also didn't want to like get in trouble, right? Like I really felt like I was going to get in trouble because I wasn't the only one being abused. It was my siblings too. And I felt like I had this role of like really taking care of them, and I felt like I failed them. I felt like I didn't protect them. Like I didn't, and then I was gonna say something, and then time went on, and because I didn't tell them right away, I was like, would they even believe me? You know,
Hmm.
like what's gonna happen if they do believe me? Like, is this really gonna hurt my family? Is it better left unsaid? I was 10, took on a lot, um, and yeah, so like I had this like burning pain within me that I couldn't share to friends or family or couldn't talk to anyone about, right? Um and then my parents even said like at about 10 or 11 I went from this like really sweet loving kid who just like loved people and loved to play and like loved life, and they said that I just changed. I was angry and mean, and like I just wanted everyone to die. Like I was just very vicious kid instantly. And then, my parents assumed it was because they had kept that secret from me that my dad wasn't really my dad, right? And I'm sure that did play a little bit of a part in it, but at the end of the day, it was the sexual abuse that had happened, right? So, yeah,
How
like
old were you when you found out about your dad not being your dad?
I was about 10.
Yeah. How'd
So
you find out, if you don't mind?
yeah, so we're sitting at the kitchen table. My grandmother's there, and we're all having dinner. And I had said something and to my dad, and then my grandma, my nana, looked over at me. She's like, "You know, Otis isn't your real dad, right?" And I was like, "What?
Oh, well.
What? Yeah, he's not your real dad." And I was just like crushed. Like, how could you not? How is that something you just don't tell your kids that, like, oh, by the way, that's not your real dad, you know?
Mhm.
And I think after that point, I started to notice something I never had noticed before, which was that he did favor my brothers, which now made sense to me because they were his actual sons. Like, they were his, you know? And so as time went on and I started noticing that all the time, I was like always trying to be, I don't know, I tried to be more for my dad, and I just never kind of hit the mark. I never I never got that from him, that I like was doing great and I was, and so yeah.
Um, so being angry, do you get into trouble with the law, like when in that angry phase of a child?
Yeah. Like I definitely if there was an identifying thing as a child in my day, it would have been, yeah, I identified as an angry child.
Yeah,
Like my teachers were like, she's a leader, she's a class clown, she's a leader, but she leads people the wrong way. She's an angry person, but she skips school. She has no respect for teachers. She has no respect for the class. She just doesn't care. I'd lost my hope for life.
yeah.
This was even before drugs. It was like about a year after, no, a year and a half after the sexual abuse that I started using drugs. So it was just like this built up like anger and pain in me. I just wasn't going anywhere.
Mhm.
Well, it was going to everyone around me, but it just was staying there. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That secret was keeping me sick, right?
Like, I don't mean to pry when I ask you this, but the whole sexual trauma, like, was it just a one-time thing, or was it something that went on over a course of a period of time?
No, it was like, I would say, so the thing is it happened with me and my siblings.
Hmm.
So to me it only happened once that I remember.
Yeah,
But to my siblings it happened more. And I was in the home when it happened. So there was like times where I would remember like banging on the door trying to get to them and like not being able to get in.
that's a pretty shitty place to be,
Yeah.
and especially being young, like it's hard, to take that on when really it's not your responsibility, right? But
Yeah, and then when you're the firstborn, you naturally feel a sense of responsibility for your siblings.
yeah, like I have three siblings, and my father had a stroke when I was 10, right?
Hmm.
And I had basically kind of, I used to call them the kids, put it that way, right?
Yeah,
And they're my siblings, right? But being the oldest, I would call them the kids.
right.
How old were you when you first did drugs?
Uh, like I'm not for sure, but I was either very close to 12, just like being 11, or I was 12.
Do you
So I
remember?
was in grade 7.
So 12, yeah, I would say
Yeah,
probably about that.
yeah.
Do you remember your experience?
Oh yeah, I remember my first time. So like I said, like I'd already been getting like into trouble, right? Um, and we ended up moving from Edmonton, um, and moving to Leduc from Edmonton, and I had to make all new friends and all this stuff. So I already had like this big, massive thing go on, and then I had to make new friends, and I was going through puberty, and I was a girl. It wasn't easy. Um, and I just remember like feeling so alone. Like I had no friends, and everyone was so cliquey, and it was just like it was devastating. I just could not. It was the end of the world for me. Literally was in the moment. It really was the end of the world moving there. And so I ended up, you know, and now that I look back now, I ended up becoming friends with kids that were just as broken as me, you know? Back then I would have never I would never see it that way. They were just people that accepted me for who I was. But now that I look back, it's like all the families were going through the same things, you know? So, yeah, I was about 11 years old and I was hanging out with my friend, and her older sister came by and she held me down with four of her friends, put a joint in my mouth, and plugged my nose. And I just remember coughing so hard. I coughed and coughed and coughed and coughed, couldn't breathe. And then after that, I was so high, I blacked out. I couldn't even remember anything. And like, you think that would have been scary? Like, I do remember feeling scared in that moment. But then I was also like extremely intrigued because I don't know, like I had seen family members doing drugs and drinking and stuff, and I always had this like envision in my mind, like, don't do that. It's horrible, it's bad. All the scariest moments in your life have been because of alcohol. Like, I remember that. I remember that feeling, like, don't ever go there.
Mhm.
Don't do drugs, don't drink. It ruins lives. I already knew that at 11. But I was like in such a like bad place that after that moment I just wanted to try everything. I think I did give up.
So it didn't really have to do with like, did it have anything to do with rebellion, or you're just
Oh,
kind of
like,
genuine curious, or just didn't care?
I think rebellion and not caring are they go like go hand in hand, right? Because yeah, I was extremely rebellious and never did anything that my parents told me to do. Like, I I I was a horrible child. Like, I don't even know why they kept me, you know?
They don't have much choice.
I
I was a
really
fucking
don't
brat
know.
too.
Yeah, I don't know how they kept me. Like, I would have given me away,
I was a troublemaker, right? So I get it.
right?
I get it.
But no, I was extremely rebellious. And anytime somebody told me not to do something, I wanted to do it, just to show like I'm not your puppet and I'm not your toy. I'll do what I want,
Yeah,
you
the
know?
big fuck you.
Yeah, literally,
Yeah.
like, I'll do what I want. But then at the same time, there was a lot of pain that I wanted to cover up, and I knew that back then, and I knew that I just wanted something to feel good. Like, I just did not want to feel like this anymore, you know? Like, I didn't want. I felt like I was hated by my parents, which I had created, which is really funny, you know? I was
Mhm.
hated. I felt like I was hated by my parents, hated by my siblings. I didn't have any friends, hated by my teachers because I was a class clown. I felt like all around hated, like a hated human being. And then you know, like I was labeled too, you know, like I was labeled as the kid that never shows up to class. I was labeled as the kid that does drugs now, you know, like I got those labels, and so I believed those. I believed that I was a problem child. Which I think a lot of kids who are young that start doing drugs feel like they feel like they're the problem child,
Mhm.
you know? So, and once you get labeled, you just believe you are that, you know? If they think that's who I am, I guess that's who I am, right? But yeah, from there, I went on a spree. Like, you know, I went from smoking pot to doing mushrooms to like literally MDMA, smoking crack, doing coke, like all within like a year. Like everything you could try, like not everything, but you know what I mean? Like the basic level of drugs I had all tried right away.
And this was before the age of 14.
Oh yeah.
That's
My
crazy.
very first overdose I was 16.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. What did
By 16, I was already addicted to heroin.
how
So like I
did
was already at the end of my where I shouldn't be, you know.
at the age of 16?
Yeah,
That's insane. That's
right.
insane. How did it progress, or like how did you support it, or
Mhm.
be able to continue to do drugs? Because I know my addiction didn't start real, like, I don't want to say it didn't start till I was 16, but that's when I basically started with the heavy drugs and
Mhm.
was able to start doing it at that point, right? So
So like there's some things that I'm like obviously not proud of, but you know, like when you're super young, people like the groups of kids like all put $5 together and they all go buy drugs and they all share it. Like
mhm.
that's just like normal as like a young teen. You know, everyone or like somebody gets $40 and then we all share. Uh, who knows? Maybe stole it from their parents. Maybe their parents just gave them money, but everyone just pulled in money. But then as I got older, you know, like I also had my first job at like 14, right? So I did have a little bit of money here and there. But there was also it went like instantly went along with crime. Like I think by 15 I'd stolen my first vehicle, right? Um, and I had a friend who was like compulsive for stealing vehicles. Yeah, like not proud of it. Like people are in high school doing normal stuff, and I'm like riding along in a stolen vehicle smoking crack and no care for the world.
Hmm.
Not even a thought like maybe I should go to school. You know, it wasn't like a normal thing for me.
Did you ever think you had a problem at that time, or?
Um, like I knew that I enjoyed the life that I was living. Like I wasn't an addict, you know, or at least I didn't think I was. Like that didn't really get brought up when you were a teenager. You weren't like, oh no, you might become an addict. Like that wasn't a thing. You know, you just went out and partied. You had fun. And like the partying went on way after like school. You know what I mean? Like, so like I wasn't always not in school. Like I did go to school, and I, you know, at one point I got off the crack and was like just drinking, and like I wasn't addicted to crack either. It was just like it was in the area of my life. Like people, some of my friends were smoking crack, and then I was like, I don't want to hang with these people. So I like jump on to the next group of people. And they were like, you know, drinking and going to raves, and you know, then they were doing like all drugs except for crack. You know, like it was just one of those things. It was like whatever stage of my life that people were also in that stage of life, I would flock to, right? So, yeah, I don't know.
What were so let's fast forward it a little bit here, and in the final stages there of addiction, like what was your drug of choice, and what were some of your bottoms?
Yeah, so I had a very long bottom. I would say from like 17 on to the end was pretty much the same hell. It happened extremely fast. As soon as I started doing opiates, I was in hell. Like I literally moved to hell. And I was also in like an extremely bad abusive relationship, like physically, emotionally, sexually, financially, you name it. It was like so abusive. Um, and so like like trying to like just live. Oh, sorry.
We'll just take a brief minute here. No,
Yeah, I thought I turned that off.
it's a good thing I can hit the edit button.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good.
I did turn it off. I'm just gonna power it off because it didn't work the first time. Sorry.
It's okay.
So, question again, because I have a mind of a squirrel.
Okay. So by the end of your addiction, what was your drug
Right.
of choice, and what were some of the bottoms?
Right.
What you're saying?
So like I said, like for a lot of years I was at a bottom. I was like a comfortable bottom addict. So like some people like go through like one bad, really, really bad thing, and then they're like, I can't, I'm done. Like I went through like a lot of years of living in hell. But I would say that um so in order to get off heroin and fentanyl or whatever you want to name whatever it was, who knows what it really was. It was mostly oxys. Um I used crystal meth and GHB. So I used GHB to like keep myself asleep long enough to not be sick. And then I used crystal meth to like feed that psychological voice that kept telling me like one pill's not a big deal. Just keep doing. Nobody's going to know. You know, like that voice that just like would not
Mm.
turn off. So then, you know, I transferred over to that and I was like, yeah, my life is so great. Look at me. 6 months down the road, I'm like a complete raging lunatic. Like I just was the psychosis alone, like the thoughts, my own thoughts were what destroyed me at that point. um but I think the biggest bottom out of all of it was yeah, like I almost took someone's life. I was partially responsible, not fully, but partially responsible for almost taking somebody's life, and I ended up in jail. So yeah, that was a really in the moment it wasn't that big of a deal. Um, but it was when I got to jail and I sobered up and I realized the mess that I had made. That was the biggest bottom for me. Was sitting there thinking, how did I get here? You know, how did I go from being an 11-year-old kid to here in jail, maybe getting 10 years in prison? Like, how does that happen? I had a lot of thinking to do in that time that I was in.
How
That
old?
was, go ahead.
How old were you?
I was 23. So 18, 19, 20, 22, 3,
In less than 10 years, yeah.
6 years I lived in hell. But it was pretty crazy, right? A lot of it I created myself because I did sell drugs in order to like provide for myself, be able to provide for my own drug habit. Also, um, you know, to have friendship. Like I think I did a lot of it to have people around me all the time. I did feel pretty lonely, and I am a social butterfly, like I really really need people around me to feel happy. So that was like one way where like I felt good. People pumped my ego, hung out, pretended like they were my best bud. I knew it was kind of fake, but it felt good. And so I just rolled with it.
I totally get it. And I talked about like I did like an introduction podcast to myself, and that being that illusion of having people around me or being more important than I was because I had what they wanted, right? But it
Right.
fed that ego, or I felt important, right? Or that people actually wanted to be around me. And then when all the drugs are gone,
Yeah.
guess what? All the people are pretty much gone.
Yeah.
So I totally get that sense of importance, right?
Right. And do you ever notice that sometimes that happens later on, like even when you're not using? You're like, do people really want me around or do they need something from me?
I don't really have a whole lot to offer. Today I don't have a whole lot to offer. That sounds
I think
horrible.
you do.
Um, I really pick and choose who's in my life, and they actually have to build up a sense. They have to build up. I'm very picky about who I let in my life today.
Mm-hmm.
I have to see them a lot before I let them in. But once you're in, you're probably in my life for the rest of my life. And then if I cut you, you ain't getting back in my life. Like
So
once you're axed, you're out.
that's really healthy.
Yeah,
It's extremely healthy, right?
for the most part. Like I'm a
Right.
true friend today, and I've got, I can probably count all my friends on one hand. You
Which
know,
is you don't need lots.
no, I got some really good, solid friends today.
Right.
So,
Right.
what was your introduction to recovery then?
So okay, so
Let's go back to when you're
I'm
sitting.
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna go back to jail. So in jail, I had to do like just to survive in there, you gotta fight people. You gotta, like it's a horrible place. Like it destroyed me. I think like solitary confinement was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Like I've gone through a lot in my life. Solitary confinement really broke me, which I think that's the point, is to break you, right? But I was so depressed, and I had this moment in there. Um, they had taken away everything. No books, no pens, no nothing. You get yourself and the radio 23 hours a day, you're locked up. So I spent a lot of time looking out the window and thinking to myself, like, man, I took life for granted. I took this beautiful thing called life for granted. And I can't believe this is where I am. And I'm probably going to stay here for a while. And yeah, I was broken. I had never felt so much pain in my entire life than in segregation. Um, but yeah, somebody threw me a Bible under the door, which was like big no because I had all my privileges taken away, right? And I slept with that Bible on my chest because I actually used to feel like my soul would try and leave my body at night. And I know that sounds really weird. They tell me now it's called a panic attack, but no, I really felt like at night I would like wake up like shaking and just like I would feel like something was trying to like leave my body. And so I would sleep with that Bible on my chest. Like at first, I just slept with this Bible on my chest constantly, right? And it would help. And I was like, oh, it's just the weight. I just need the weight on my chest, right? And then, I got really bored. And I decided to read the Bible. So I did read the Bible. And there's a part in the Bible about I don't know if you know the Bible. I'm sure some of the viewers know the Bible a little bit, but there's this part where Saul meets Jesus and he interacts with him, and Jesus is like, "Dude, I'm trying to like use you. I'm trying to like use you um to do really great things, but you're like fighting me." He killed millions of Christians, like millions of Christians. And after he has that moment with God, he's like, "Oh my God, like what have I done?" And it was in that moment that I realized, like, if Jesus or God could forgive a man who had killed millions of people, his people, why couldn't he forgive me for almost taking someone's life? Why couldn't he forgive me for everything I've done? You know? And it was an emotional moment. I was like, oh my God, like, I really think, I just, I really think that I could be forgiven. I think I could restart. And so I prayed for the first time. And I remember I didn't want it to be fake. You know, I didn't want it to be like, um, Jesus, if you could get me out of this, you know, like I'd really appreciate it. No, I really wanted it to be authentic and real. So I got down on my knees, which is like way out of character. I'm a criminal, you know. Got down on my knees and I was like, God, you know, if you could just give me another chance. And I don't want it to sound like that because I just like if I could change the words so it would sound better, I would. But if you could just give me another chance, I'll do whatever you say. Like, I'll do whatever it takes. I have made such a mess of my life and I don't know. I don't know how I got here. I don't know how this happened, you know? And if you could just lead the way, whatever you put in my way, I will do. And I asked for forgiveness. I asked him if he could forgive me for everything he did. And I had this overwhelming feeling rush through my body. And I felt peace for the first time since I was like 10. First time in my entire life, I felt this sense of peace. And like in solitary confinement, that's not even a thing, you know? Like there's no such thing as peace. And I felt peace and I felt warmth and I felt love and I felt forgiven. I felt it. This is like the most spiritual thing I've ever gone through in my entire life. And I felt so forgiven. And at this point in time, like I'm fighting with everyone on the unit because I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it. I brought drugs into jail, which is like a serious criminal offense. But it wasn't for other people. I wasn't trying to sell drugs. I was literally trying to maintain my addiction. You know, I didn't want to go without and I didn't want to get sick. And so everyone wanted me dead, of course, because they don't know me. They just want the drugs. And so up until that moment, I hated everyone. I was like one woman stand on like this unit. I had a couple friends, but not very many people, you know? And in that moment, I went to the window. I'm on the third tier of the Edmonton Remand Center, like in one of the units. And I looked down, and it was the first time in over 10 years that I felt empathetic to everyone in the room. I realized in that moment, like God gave me this vision that everyone in that room was just as broken as I was. That and their stories might be different, but at the end of the day, there's sexual abuse that went on as children. There's, you know, moms and dads that were addicts. You know, there's lots of things that happened that brought them to this moment in their life. And the feelings that I felt in my heart about being there, they did too. It was a powerful moment.
That's cool.
It was so powerful. And after that moment, I truly did have a love for everyone in that building, which I hadn't had love for human beings for a very long time. I loved animals, but I did not trust or like people in general. So that's where my empathy comes from. Was from that moment. That was the very first empathic moment I had since addiction. It was very powerful. And yeah, like it's just one of those things where I I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't had that encounter, you know? It was very beautiful. Um I think I just like went off a little bit.
It's all good. Um, How so? I'll start with this then. What was your introduction to recovery?
Right, that was the question initially. So that was kind of my introduction. So that was my very first moment where I was like, I can change,
Okay. Did you
right?
know about the 12? Like, did you know about
Nope,
any sense of recovery?
nothing. No, I did not know anything.
How'd you get introduced to it then?
It was Larry.
Okay.
So my husband, Larry, um, he was like, okay, when we get out of here, we're both going to go to treatment centers. Because, first of all, I stopped answering calls. I wouldn't talk to him or whatever. And he was like, what is going on? Like, why wouldn't you, you know, why don't you want to talk to me? And I was like, I've decided to change my life. I want to get clean. I don't think that me and you are going to be able to do it together. Like, we're both addicts. I think that, like, if I use, then you'll use. And if you use, then I'll use. Right. And so, he's like, no, no, no. If this is something you really want, I want it too. And I didn't really believe him, like what, just because I said it, you want to now,
Yeah.
like, but no, he's like very, very adamant about it. And so like he got out, um, yeah, he got out and he went to Bonnyville. And when a couple months later I got out, which was like insane, I ended up only getting 18 months, which is really great. I'm really grateful that God did that for me. He did give me a second chance, and that judge really did give me a second chance at life. Um, and yeah, so I went to Wellsprings, which was a 1 year program, and it was a live in program. So, you know, I did a year and some or 18 months or something like that. I can't remember how much time it was in total. I was like, what's another year of institutions? Like I'm already institutionalized, so yeah, so I did my 1 year program there. That was my introduction. And then I remember him taking me to my first meetings and I was like, whoa, these are weird. But, I truly started to enjoy them, but I just had no clue that people recovering could get together in a room and be there for each other. Like I was mind blown. Mind blown.
It's crazy how it works, eh? Like,
I didn't even know that. I was like, this is a whole total different world for me. Like I didn't even know this existed, you know?
oh, I agree. Like, I got forced to rehab, and that's when I got introduced to my very first meeting ever, and that was it after that, right? So,
Right.
you know,
Right. Yeah. So like in treatment, we had to do 5 meetings a week. I think only two of them could be in house, and then the other three would you'd have to go into the like community. And I was just like blown away. Like there's, I don't know, maybe I'm like speaking. There's like hundreds of meetings in Edmonton a week, right?
hmm
You'd think
oh yeah,
there's
for
a
sure there is.
pretty big opportunity for you to get a meeting. Like there's absolutely no excuse. I couldn't. There was no excuses for me to like be like, oh, I couldn't make it to one. There are so many. There's actually a huge community of people recovering in Edmonton. I was like, it's it's not. There's probably more addicts than recovering addicts in Edmonton. Probably.
Uh,
I don't know, but I know I've weighed this. I've thought about this, but like there's a massive community of people who really really want change for themselves, and like that was really cool.
that's cool. What'd your first year look like then? Like in
Yeah,
treatment?
yeah. So my first year was, um, yeah, it was crazy. Like I knew that I wasn't just doing meetings. So I did like 5 meetings a week. I also worked out at the gym 5 meet or like 5 times a week. Like working out was a big part of being happy and healthy. And like it really taught me that there are things you can do when you're bored. Like go work on yourself. But then I also did stuff like EMDR therapy. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh yeah, tried that myself actually.
Yeah. So I had to do EMDR therapy for my sexual abuse and some of the abuse I went through with my ex partner, and so that really helped me. I was like really shocked. It really helped me. I did quite a few sessions though. Um, like before, if I was to have told you any of the stuff that I had told you, I just start bawling. Like I couldn't even get it out of my mouth because it caused me so much internal pain. Now it's like I can tell you it like it's somebody else's story, and that's what EMDR therapy did for me, right? And not just that though, like I got really involved in my church community. So I started going to City Life Church. I had already been there when I was a kid, but like I just never I don't know. I just never felt like I fit in. I never really felt like I fit in anywhere. I just kept going to the next, to the next, to the next. I just keep moving myself around, right? But yeah, so I started going to church every Sunday. The like lead pastor there, Monica, she would pick me up from Edmonton every week. You know, she actually went to almost every single one of my court cases. She was there, like she was so there for me. She's such like that woman just means the world to me. She was just she supported me my mom literally calls her my second mom. She's like, I would never, ever, ever call anyone your second mom. I would never do that. But Monica is your second mom.
That's
She's
cool.
like, she really, really has been an amazing person to you. And she has. Like, that woman, she has supported me through it all, no matter what. Even if I wasn't going to church, she was there to support me, you know? But yeah, so, you know, I started serving and doing stuff like that and really just like the service part of it was just like stop thinking about myself. I was so selfish for so many years. It's like, you know, just really caring about other people. And how do you do that? You do things for people. Guess what? For free. You don't do it for money. You volunteer your heart. That's how you get payment is through hugs and love. And you know what I mean? Like there's no money in it. That's how you actually learn to be on like not to be selfish, right? But there was a lot of things that happened in that first year.
Yeah. What was the most memorable? What's the thing that stood out the most in that first year?
Um, well, oh, there's so many. But I would think just graduating the program because I had never finished anything in my entire life. Never finished school. Never finished anything. Hadn't even read a book fully through, you know? And in that year I had accomplished so much. Like my probation officer came to my grad, you know? Who's like from my past to having your probation officer come to your grad and just like tell you how proud of you they are and like you know I had a lot of people there that just it was it was a big beautiful moment in my life. I had this weird spiritual thing where I felt like I was always meant to get out of this cycle and I just never had accomplished it, you know? And in that moment I just felt like I did it. I finally did it, you know? Like all I ever wanted was a little bit of clean time, but like to get a full year, I never thought that was possible. I did not think, I didn't think I'd be part of the, what is it, 2%?
Yeah, it's not very high.
It's not very high. So I never thought I'd be a part of that, you know? I definitely thought I was a lost cause. So that was a very big moment for me.
How much clean time do you have now? What's your
So
clean date? Yeah.
I do have 7 years.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys can't see the smile right now. She's got a big grin right now. Yeah. But you earn it, right? Like the shit
Yeah.
doesn't happen by accident. Like you earn that, Like you have to put in the work and you reap the rewards, right?
You have to go through all the seasons of pain in
Yeah.
life and just not give up
Yeah.
at any point. No matter how bad life can get, you just can't give up. That's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
But the
I've
be-
had many close calls.
but the beautiful thing is we don't have to do it alone, right? So there's
Right.
lots of people out there that want to help us and support us and make sure that we're okay, right? And I
Right.
believe it's just we take turns.
Right.
Like
Right.
we just take turns going through shit, right? It's just your turn this time, right? Or it's just
Right.
my turn, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
how do
You
you
know.
deal with triggers, or how do you deal with triggers?
Mm.
Speaking of
So
being difficult.
my triggers were really bad. Like I couldn't even look at a pen. Music was a huge trigger for me. Music, like I could not listen to any electronic music at all for like the first 2 years because I'd instantly just like miss it. I would miss going to clubs and I'd miss like DJing and I'd miss all that life and you know that was really hard for me. But like the number one trigger still to me today is Edmonton. It's hard being here because I spent a lot of times in a vehicle selling drugs. So I have so many memories all across Edmonton. That's one of the main reasons that I decided to like live in Devon. There's a lot of people that were like, "Well, why'd you move so far away?" Because this place seriously triggers me. I have so many. Anytime I go anywhere, I'm just like, "Oh yeah," and then that happened, and that happened, and then I feel gross. And it's like in Devon, I'm a new free person and I can be who I want to be, you know? So, but yeah, with triggers, the most important thing is to understand that it's a trigger. Like, okay, this memory, which a memory is in the past, it's not relevant, it's not tangible, it's not in this moment, it has no actual, like, it can't hurt you. It can't make you do drugs. It's just a memory. So if you understand that whatever it is, like that feeling you're getting from a memory is just that, then you know that it can't hurt you as long as you push through it, as long as you're stronger than it, you know? Like it the thing is yeah, like I said, a memory is not tangible. It's not real anymore. So it can't affect you as long as you don't allow it to. You know, you can be stronger than it.
So, kind of on the same note, then feelings. What's your take on feelings?
I have a lot of them.
Don't we all?
I have a lot of them. I'm a very emotional person. And I think that's a big part of why I was an addict. Because, like, I had these huge emotions as a small child and was never really taught, like, how to cope and how to deal with them, you know? So if you don't know how to cope with your sadness and you don't know how to cope with your anger, then it's a bad thing to have those things. And so, like, if you're a predominantly angry, sad person like I am, then you're a problem, right? So it's like today, I just run through my emotions and I just know that they're human and they're okay. Like if I become angry and there's people around me, first of all, the first thing I'm going to do is apologize. I'm sorry I'm angry right now. But then if it's my children, I'll be like, you know, this is a normal emotion, you know, sorry I'm mommy's angry around you, or sad around you. But, you know, you have to understand that you have those emotions because they are a part of who you are and they're going to fuel where you go in life. Obviously, you can't act out in those emotions because there's a difference between having anger and putting a hole in the wall.
Hmm.
It's what you do with that feeling, like how you work through it and like what you do with it, what you turn it into that really matters, right?
100%. And I also like the expression, my feelings can't kill me.
Right.
Like there was,
Only I can.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I shared with this one before too. Is the feeling face chart. That sat on my fridge for a year when I first got sober because I had no idea what my feelings were, and I had to go over and like identify over and over to be able to like eventually know what they were without having to go and like Google it or look it up. Right. So, self care. How do you self care today?
Self care is a little hard for me because I have two little ones. So I mostly like do childcare.
Yeah.
No, but it's really important. Like sleep is important for me when I can get it. I used to say like no amount of anger can stay after a nap. Like if you have a nap when you're super angry, that nap you'll wake up and be like, oh, what was that about? Or if I'm like super overwhelmed and I have a nap, it's like gone. I feel good. But like I think eating is a big one. Like what you put into your body, what you put in your gut, that gut health is going to feed your mind, So like you're not going to go through if you do get depression like I do. I get depression every once in a while. You're not going to have it as often, you're not going to have it as strong if you're taking care of your stomach. So like just recently I just did 8 months without meat because I wanted to like fix my stomach, fix my heart, cleanse my body. And it was a great thing, so it's like taking care of yourself. Like I don't get to go to the gym, but my kids are young, you know but I can focus on like what I'm putting into my body now, right?
Is there any goals here? Like I totally get that too. Yeah, like it makes a huge difference, right?
Right.
Any goals you're currently working towards?
Yeah. So I've hit almost all of my 5-year plan goals, every single one of them. um it's hard because like I literally just this last week hit my very last goal, so I have to like make new goals. But in the last, let's say 7 years, um we started a business, crush that goal, crush that goal. Things I wanted for myself like in the beginning of recovery were like I just wanted to have my own place. because I'd been living in an institution for so long. Um, I wanted to like I was very materialistic still. I was like, I just want to have nice decor. I want to be in like this like my own sanctuary, something somewhere I feel safe, you know? And then after like I had that, then I was like, okay, it's possible. So now I'm gonna make some real goals. So then yeah, like, we wanted a truck, we wanted a nice house, we wanted to have a family, we wanted to get married. I wanted to do some public speaking. Um, I really wanted to give back to my community. And I have killed every single one of those goals. Like, you know, we do own a truck. Um, we own a business. We just bought our very first house, which was an acreage, is gorgeous. 12.5 acres. It was like our dream. We never thought that was going to happen. Like we were like, we'll buy a house and then, like when we can afford it, we'll get an acreage. It's like boom, first house, acreage. It was like,
Nice.
oh my gosh. Super exciting stuff. Public speaking. I got to speak for um one of the largest conferences in Canada that happens every year on addiction for CAPSA. I don't know if you know them, just look them up. It's yeah, I got to meet some of like the most profound doctors in Canada, and like honestly it was funny because the whole time I was there was all these people with very big titles, and I stayed out each day and hung out with the homeless, just like got close to them. But yeah, the public speaking was a big one. I'm happy that God put that in my way because it's easy for me to speak now. It wasn't in the beginning, but I think he wanted me to have that like courage. I'm not sure for what yet, but he wanted me to have that courage for something. So crushed that. I have two beautiful children. Oh my gosh. Like they are, it's scary how beautiful these two girls are. Me and my husband are married. We've been happily married for, I don't want to get this number wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Cover
Like I'm
your
pretty
ears,
sure
Larry.
it's been like 6 years. We've been together for 9, but we married for 6. I know he's gonna get me on that, but like I'm pretty sure he's really good with dates. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been about 6 years, and man, like he is my best friend. Like we have gone through bad seasons, but we have never been so strong in our relationship. Like we put in the work there, just like in every other area of life, just like recovery. Like when things weren't well, we went to counseling. We did everything they said. Just like if you were to go into the meetings, you just do everything that's advised. And we came out stronger than ever. You
That's
know,
awesome.
yeah.
That's
I've been
awesome.
blessed, man. I have been blessed. I would never have imagined my life to be like this. Like, and all I had to do was to put everything that God asked me to do. Every opportunity that was given to me, I did. Like I treated it like it was from God, because I said like whatever you put in front of me, I'll do if you just give me this other chance at life. Even with this, when you're like, "Hey, would you do this?" I'm like, "Absolutely." Because
It's
it's
always
an
something.
opportunity God had to have put in front of me. So I just say yes to those things. Anytime somebody asks me to do it, I just, yep, sure, why not? You know? So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being on the show, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will appreciate it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do for fun and recovery today?
I live a pretty normal life now. Normie life, I'm pretty normal. So I just like do normal stuff. Like in the wintertime we're like we have skidoos, in the summertime we have sea-doos and boats, and we go to lake lots. We love to camp. We're like big campers. Like I like to do my own projects, like do it yourself projects. Like I'm big on that. I love to like do things with my kids, like anything that will create memories and joy with them. Like I love, like if I could say anything, my fun and recovery is creating memories with people and friends.
That's part of my tagline, actually, at the end.
Oh really?
Yeah. Make memories, take lots of pics, and show the world your smile.
No
Yeah.
way.
Because that's what it's about, right? Like we get clean to
Right.
friggin' start living a life like worth living, and making memories is huge, right? And
It absolutely is, because you have to like get rid of the old ones.
yeah, new
Those things don't
associations and
have, those memories don't have power over you as long as you create new good ones
mhm.
to
Well, and we
flood
get
your
this
mind.
whole new life of being able to create those memories, right? Where we're not doing the same shit day in day out. We're Like for me, you know what? My life consisted of doing drugs and getting more drugs, like a dog chasing his tail. You know, it's just a circle. Today, fucking, you know, you get the whole backyard to play in, right? When you
Right.
put the drugs away and start living a clean life, you know, anything's possible.
So, like, for an average person who's probably listening to this, they'd be like, "Oh, quadding, seizures, that's pretty normal." Like, I'm telling you right now, in all of my years of addiction, I did none of those things. I didn't go to a beach. I didn't jump on a quad. I didn't go bowling. Like, I did nothing but get high.
Mm-hmm.
I did nothing but obsess about my next fix. And like, yeah, I just hung out with people doing drugs and did drugs all day. Literally. I like think back, I'm like, what did we even talk about? Like, I don't even know, drugs? I think we talked about drugs. I think that was it.
Yeah, or how to get more, or you know where the
Yeah,
money's coming from, or
right.
things like that,
So
right?
like those things that sound so basic in my fun recovery are like, you know, they're really cool things that I loved in like my 5-year-old quads. Like that's so cool. I get to like give her that, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
I got a random question for you here.
Hmm.
Who's someone you want to meet today and why?
Somebody I want to meet. Oh, probably Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How come?
because he's so inspiring. Like he is the kind of person who will bring everything you've ever questioned to the table and get like different points of view on it. Even if they like don't, agree. It's like, and he can I don't know, he's just very inspiring. Like he can get conversations brought up that most of the internet won't allow, So he's very brave. And I think like he's doing a pretty cool thing. Like that podcast is like I look up to that podcast. Like that is so cool what
That's
he's
cool.
done. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it's about breaking barriers, right? And
Right.
this is kind of a new platform, not new, but like over the last years, it's really starting to kind of take off, right? And
Right.
give people a voice that wouldn't normally have a voice, right?
Mhm.
So,
And like he just does this thing where he gets people to question their own thinking by bringing on most not all the time, but like experts, you know what I mean? Pretty cool stuff.
what's one opportunity that's really presented yourself? Actually, let me reword this. Okay. What's something you thought about doing when you're in active addiction that didn't actually come to fruition till you got clean?
Oh, that was a big one for me. So when I was younger, like I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna say it. So I stopped getting my menstrual cycle. That was a thing because was, I went to the doctor and the doctor was like, yeah, well, you're doing lots of drugs. So no, you're not gonna get your period anymore because you're slowly dying. Your body is shutting down, um, the systems in your body that don't need to work in order to live because you're not eating, you're not drinking, you're slowly dying. So your least important system in your body is your reproductive system. So that will be the first to go. So, and I was like, well, what does that mean? Does it mean I'll never have kids? And he's like, yeah, that's exactly what it means. And like, honestly, you probably shouldn't have kids. Like, are you thinking about having kids? The sort of thing. I was like, no, no, no. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Like, I want to know if this is the end all thing. And he's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to have kids. So when I got clean, I was like, I was like dead set on not being able to have kids. I even told my boyfriend, husband now at the time, like, I love that you want a full football team, dude, but like I can't even have one. I did that to my body. And then yeah, I got pregnant for the first time and I was like, oh my god. It was the coolest feeling in the world because I thought like that had been ripped away from me from my own doing, right?
Yeah,
So I was super happy about that. Super scared, but super happy.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I think I'm gonna ask you probably one more here in life. What makes you smile today?
um, yeah. I hate to be like that mom, but like my kids are so funny and smart and like their sense of humor is like such a reflection of me and Larry. We're like me and Larry are like comedians in our own home. Like we just like one like stand up comedy all night long. And so like seeing them like that and like trying to be a part of that like comedic nature of our home, like that brings severe joy, you know? And like another thing that like one of the most important things is like me and my mom have a beautiful like friendship now. Um and she is like my best friend. And I treated her really bad for a lot of years. I never would have seen that coming, you know? And now I can honestly say that like we're not just on the mend, like we are the closest we've ever been. And it brings me so much joy to know that she like, you know, that we can be buddies and that we can actually like relate to each other and talk through stuff, you know? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think we're pretty much going to wrap this up at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's something you'd like to leave the listeners that we haven't had a chance to
If I
talk
could
about?
say anything, I would say that like recovery looks different for everyone. So not something that will work for me might not work for them, but that doesn't mean that they should give up, you know? Like I know a couple people who it's like they feel like they've done it all, done everything that everyone's asked, and it's still not working for them. I feel like at that point you need to look for something better, something more. You know, like if you haven't done cognitive behavioral therapy, try it. It's not gonna hurt you. You haven't done EMDR, try it. It's not gonna hurt you. Anything that you do to work on yourself, to make yourself a better person, is not gonna hurt you. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't work or not, it's making you a better person. So, you know, like consistently try, consistently find something to make you be that person that you want to be. Yeah. That's what I'd
Awesome.
say.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, no problem.
And I think that's pretty much it. So I don't know if you want to say good night or adios to everybody.
Sure.
Want to say goodbye, and I'll leave this with everybody else too listening in. Is make lots of memories, take
Yeah.
lots of pics, and show the world your smile. Thanks for sharing your time with us tonight. Bye.